Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalam ala rasulillah wa alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Thumma ma ba'd, a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim.
Biggie.
Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Okay, so we'll just continue from where we left off last week. What is, so what is the nafs? Yeah, that's good. Thanks for that, Saad. So it's the desire. So we're talking about, we introduced like the nafs. So the nafs is not from shaitan, because the nafs, remember we said, so the nafs is, we introduced the nafs. It's a part of our, it lives in the heart. So it's something which is our desires. Like, the nafs, uh, it's a part of our physical body. So it's a part of our ourselves. So yeah, so it's not we can't say it's from the shaitan. The nafs is something which is it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's our inner self, you can say. It's like our inner self, but it's to do with our, like, our physical bodies. It's to do with our needs and our desires. And remember we said last week, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He put this inside us because you need to have some sort of desire. Your nafs, you need to have a nafs because you need to have some motivation, like you need to eat, you need to build a house, you need to have family, you need to have children, you need to have money, you need to do a job. You need to do these things in life. So that's why we have the nafs that desires these things. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, the nafs, but it does need to be controlled. But this is something that lives in the heart that we said. Do you remember? Like, along with the ruh is something which is purely recognizes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the ruh, for even someone who believes, even someone who disbelieves, the ruh is pure. The soul is pure. Do you remember? Like before we were born, the ruh, it recognized Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The ruh knows that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exists, a part of the fitrah. Remember we talked about this. The ruh is pure, is spiritual, but the nafs is to do with our bodily instincts, with our physical instincts. Is that clear? The difference between the ruh and the nafs, and the fact that the nafs, we do need to have desire, because we do need to obviously have motivation to do things in life. Like, do you understand? So we need to have a desire, and we said that there are different levels of nafs, which we'll talk about as well, inshallah. But the thing to understand is that nafs is basically our desires, and we need these desires. And also we said the nafs is for one more thing. So it's for desires, and what else lives? What else is do we need the nafs? Um, what else do we need the nafs for? So the nafs has two functions really. It's, I think, if you remember, if I put it on here, certain thing, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put the nafs inside us for two things. Do you remember this? It's for desires and guilt, like feeling guilty. So if you did a bad thing, like what happens when you do a bad thing? Like if you make a mistake, or you do you commit a sin, you feel guilty, yeah? We said that this last week, and it's like an alarm system inside us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put inside us, the nafs. فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا. Like, it's an alarm system. It goes off. Like, you do something bad, if you lie, or if you, like, you hit your sibling, or you do something, you commit a sin, and then you don't need anybody to tell you, but you feel bad because you made a mistake, you did a sin. This is because your nafs, your alarm system, has gone off. So this lives in the nafs as well. So there's two main things that lives in the nafs. So that lives with the nafs. It's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put inside us. Desires, like we need things, like we want things, and feeling guilty. So is that clear so far? Like what the nafs is, and what we talked about, and the difference between the nafs and the ruh. And I just wanted to talk about something interesting, and that we started talking about last week, and we did go through this. But this is proof, that the nafs, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put these desires inside us. So do you remember this ayah that we were talking about in Surah Ali Imran last week? So if you remember, we said that, and I want to just have something interesting in this, just focus on something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, which we talked about last week. And the fact is that, like, these things are made so beautiful to us. Like, people, they want these things. Like, like you're growing up, like we said, that there's a desire, like men have a desire for women, women for men. You want to have, like, children, you want to pile up money, you want lots of money, you want, like, a nice house, you want, like, so fine horses. So nowadays it's like fast cars, you want nice cars, you want to have, like, businesses, you want to make money, you want to have lots of land, space, you want to care for all these things. Do you remember we talked about this? But what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? He says, Zuyyina linnasi, like it's made beautiful for you. So imagine like if you don't have these things, like you don't have a Lamborghini or you don't have like a Ferrari, but you think, oh, I really want it because you see pictures of it, you see other people, you see films, videos, you see pictures, you see images of Lamborghinis and fast cars and Ferraris. You really want this car. Like you think, oh, I wish I had it, I wish I had it. But imagine that's why Allah subhanahu saying this is made so beautiful for you because you want these things, because you have a desire, you have a nafs. The nafs is giving you this desire. But imagine if you got this Lamborghini and Ferrari. Just imagine it's parked outside your house. You will basically just think you will not be able to sleep at night, to be honest. You know why? Because you will be very paranoid. Oh, every time you drive the car, you're going to be thinking, oh, I hope it doesn't get a scratch here, it doesn't get a scratch there. I hope, no one, someone doesn't, by accident hit the car. When you're sleeping, it's like, oh, no, I hope my car is safe. I hope like no one has come in, tried to break into the car. And all the time you're going to be thinking in your heart about this car, like, is it okay? Oh no, what if it gets a scratch? This is what is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. Remember we said at the end of this ayah, says this is the mata of the life of the world. And we said mata means, we gave an example that there was a scholar who's trying to search for this word, and he eventually found this girl by the river. She was scrubbing her clothes with this brush, and she's scrubbing very hard, like trying to clean the clothes, like hard work. And then a goat came along and stole this brush, and then she started running after the goat, saying, "Oh, my mata has gone, my mata has gone." And the scholar then found out, he understood the meaning of the word mata, because if you can imagine, the girl she called mata, she called the brush she was using to scrub her clothes, she called it mata. That means it's like a hard work. Like she doesn't enjoy it, like a really washing her clothes, brushing her clothes that much. It's because she has to do it. It's a chore of life. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says all these things are made beautiful for you, but once you get them, once you get these things, they become like a mata. Like it's like, whoa, it's inside your heart. It's like you just, I don't know, you're always thinking about this. You're not easy, because imagine, like we gave the example, you have this Lamborghini Ferrari now parked outside your house. You're always going to be thinking, what if this happens to it? What if that happens to it? It's really like a chore of life. Now you've got it, you're not necessarily happy with it. So that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called this the mata of the life of the world. It's very interesting because he didn't call it like, oh, you're going to be fully satisfied with this, did he? He's calling it something that is less like a chore, that now you've got it, you're not necessarily fully happy with it. And then he says, with Allah is the best return. Like, in other words, you're only going to be happy with these things in Jannah. When you go to Jannah, you can have unlimited things. Only then your heart is going to be like fully, content. In this world, when we have these things, we're not fully content. And this is, even like if you had lots of money, for example, everyone thinks, oh, I want millions and millions of pounds. I want lots of money. And it's made really beautiful for people. But once you get it, just imagine, you just always going to be thinking, oh, what should I do with the money? I think I need to spend it here. I need to invest it here. I hope I don't lose it. I hope this doesn't happen to my money. I hope this doesn't happen. You're always thinking about your money. And in your heart, you're just not at peace. So again, once you get these things, it's like a chore. It's like a mata of the life of the world. Like it's something that is not really that beautiful as it seemed. And that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning here. And even like houses, for example, just people desire big houses. But just imagine once you get the house, like a massive house, like 5-7 bedroom house, you've got the house, you really wanted it. It was made so beautiful to you. It's got like a swimming pool, and you really wanted it because the pictures were so nice and the advertising was so nice. But once you got it, it's like you're just constantly thinking like the furniture. I mean, you're always just paranoid. Oh, the kids, I hope they don't scratch the table here or jump on the sofa here, or just what if something happens to this room, or the other room, how I'm going to get this cleaned, and the bills are so much, and like the other things which come and they overtake your heart, and you're constantly thinking, you're basically paranoid because you can't really sleep properly because there's so many things you're worried about, because now you've got this. So again, this becomes like a mata of the life of the world. It's like a chore. It's not something that's really desirable, really, if you think about it. And this is something, you can really think that about anything, and even like just toys. Like you want toys, you really want this toy, like in that it's advertising, it makes you really, it attracts you. It's this toy, these expensive toys, and then you get this toy, but what happens? Like maybe a few days later, a few weeks later, that's it. You played with it, and it's no longer that beautiful as something that it was beautiful when you didn't have it. But when you have it, it's like just one of those things. It's like use it for a while, and you may like but then it just wears off, and it's not really something that is that beautified for you. So this is something that is very important, and this is to do with the nafs, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says these things are beautified for you because our nafs does desire things. So it shows us that, all these things are good, but they need to be controlled. Our desires need to be controlled, and a heart can only really be at peace, not with these things, because like we just gave examples, your heart is going to be fully like thinking about these things and not at peace when you have these things, only with the remembrance of Allah. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, do hearts find rest. So that's the only way that our hearts are going to be at rest, and the way that our nafs is going to be controlled, by remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is just an example, of them. This is the nafs, wanting these things, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it has to be controlled. Okay. So is that clear so far? Any questions? Like, is it clear, like, about the nafs and about desires at the moment, and how we do desire these things? This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put inside us. So does that make sense? Let me just carry on, inshallah. Okay. So like we said, these are all desires, like in this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, but it's like a wild horse. We have to control these desires, because just imagine a person that can't control their desires. They just do whatever comes into their mind, and it includes, like, a lot of times is the way we speak, the way we just are maybe impulsive, the way we talk, and just can't control how we talk, maybe the anger, the fighting maybe with our siblings, or just generally how, we sometimes do things without thinking. It can get out of control. It can become really wild. It's like a wild horse. Like, if you don't control your desires, it's just going to be really, really, so difficult for you to be at peace, be at rest. So it's going to go crazy if it's not controlled. So in other words, the nafs needs to be controlled. That's the one lesson, the main lesson we learn. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put these desires, this nafs inside us. It has to be controlled, because if it's not controlled, and like we said, we mentioned there's different types of nafs, like the nafs which is just not controlled at all. Nafsul amara, it's just not controlled. This person, the nafs is controlling them. Like, they keep doing sin. It's just like, we said there's three types. One is where the lowest one level of the person, they keep doing sins. They can't control their nafs because they're too much into their sin. And then the second type is nafsul lawwama. Like, we'll talk about that. This nafs, it does good things. It also does bad things. It also sins. It recognizes its mistakes. It still has the guilty feeling, which is necessarily, that's a good thing. You're still guilty when you do things. This is the second level of nafs. And then there's a higher level, nafsul mutma'inna, like, it's a higher level, the nafs which is completely at peace with whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. They don't really have desires to do sins. They're like really at peace because they've reached that level where they're really happy with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us amongst the people with have this nafsul mutma'inna. And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about this person. Irji'i ila rabbiki radiyatan mardiya fadkhuli fi ibadi wadkhuli jannati. Like, this nafsul mutma'inna, enter Jannah, come to Jannah, because you are going to be pleased with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah is pleased with you. So we all aim to have this nafsul mutma'inna, this highest level of nafs, where we can control our desires. And inshallah, we'll go through how some of the ways we can do this, and what challenges we face. Okay. And do you remember we talked about this? This is all happening in the heart. So the nafs lives in the heart. The desires are in the heart. The heart has desires. Okay, so now I think that you should be familiar with this. What does this picture tell you about our ruh and about our nafs? Can anybody type in or just shout out? What does this picture tell you about the ruh we have, our fitra, and also the nafs? Where do they both live? They live in the heart, yes? Is that clear? The nafs and the ruh live in the heart. So what's happening in the heart? So now we come to a very interesting thing. We come to this, now it's, the main topic, what we were starting today is basically that there's a fight going on. There's a battle going on in our heart. And this battle, this heart is basically, you could call it, okay, so we'll just carry on before we talk about that. So the ruh is what? The ruh is light and is fitra, yeah? The ruh is light, is fitra, is like pure, because it recognizes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The nafs, it has desires. Yes? So we know this. And this is, just imagine, keep in mind, this is happening in our heart. So, before, at the beginning of this series, when we kept on saying the heart has desires and, the heart makes a decision and ultimately the akal follows our heart. Now we know where these desires are coming from. These desires are coming from. So, inshallah, we take questions a bit later. If you can just focus. So these desires are coming from the nafs. So now we know where these desires that we talked about before are coming from. They're coming from the nafs. But the ruh, we said the ruh of in the heart, the light, the fitra, it recognizes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is both in the heart, the desires of the nafs and the light and the fitra of the ruh. So the heart has desires, yes? You want to eat, you want to have food, you get hungry, you want to build a house, you want a nice house, you want to live in a house, you want to have a family, you want to have children. All these things are living in the heart. Yeah? These are all from the nafs. But the heart also has light and fitra. So the heart also wants to eat, like spiritual food. It's looking for the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's looking for the Quran. It also needs that. So both these things are happening in the heart. The desires, the physical desires, because we said the nafs is connected to the physical body. Also the spiritual desires, the light, the fitra. This is both happening in the heart. The light, the fitra, and of the ruh, and the nafs, the desires of the nafs, these are all pre-installed, meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already put these in our heart. Like when we're born, when we're growing up, we already have these desires. We have desires to eat, build a family, to even get married, have a house. These things have money, and we also have a desire. Well, the ruh also has a desire to really look for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to have spiritual food. So these two things are already in our heart. And this is the battlefield. Okay, this is what's happening in our heart. Just imagine our heart is like a big field. Like you watch these films, like maybe you watched The Message, or like where you have the battle of Uhud taking place, or you have a battle of Badr. You have a battlefield. There's two armies which are coming, they're fighting. Or just imagine there's a boxing ring, and there's two boxers fighting in the ring. Just imagine the heart is like that boxing ring, or the heart is like that big field where the battle is happening. And the two fighters, the two people, the two boxers, the two armies, the two parties which are fighting in the heart, one is the ruh, the other is the nafs. There's a battle going on between the ruh and the nafs. These two things are fighting on the field. So it's a case of every single day we're facing this challenge. And in our heart, we always have this, that our desires want something and our ruh wants something. And this is where we really need to focus on, okay, what is this? How can we win? Like, what is the best thing to do for us in this battlefield? Like, who's going to win? Are the desires going to win? We talked about this. When the desires completely win, like this person, when the desires control the person, then you can say they've lost the battle, because that's it. The ruh no longer recognizes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the person is continually doing sin. So the desires can't win. So your ruh, we have to try and make our ruh to win, our fitra to win this battle, this fight, which is going on every single day inside us on this battlefield. And then this way, we will be most at peace. Just imagine, like, this is the fight going on in your heart, the fight to really either have your heart be at peace, at rest, or have your heart like really uneasy and just like, not content, not happy. So every day this fight is going on. So I hope that's clear. These are the two participants. These are the two, like the challengers, the two the two armies, the two boxers in the fight, the ruh against the nafs. So this is really important with the next thing we're going to talk about. So happening inside us, this believer, Muslims, this battlefield is happening inside us. And every day we have this thing, and this battlefield, we can tell because this nafs is also to do with how we talk. Sometimes, like we said, it's how we behave, our anger, the fighting we have with our siblings or whatever, family members. That's all a part of the desires that's going on inside us. The food, like what we're eating as well, for example, is a part of, controlling the desires, like how much, literally how much we eat as well. That's also a part of this. Every single thing in our life, every single minute, just imagine, is like a battle going on between the ruh and the nafs. So we're going to talk about, what is this battlefield? What can we do? So like we said, when the nafs wins, what happens? Then yeah, jazakallah khair, yeah. So the nafs will take over the heart, exactly. So what's going to happen is the ruh, the fitra, is going to become hurt. It's going to feel bad. So you might experience this. Like the more the nafs wins over the heart, the desires, the thing where you maybe the anger is overcoming the emotion, the strong desire to, um, you know, to do things, or someone is sinning. The fitra, the ruh, is going to feel bad. It's going to get hurt because your spiritual side, the side which recognizes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, naturally it is going to suffer because you can't have both things. And that's the point, that look, this is a battle. In a battle, both of these things can't win. Like when two boxers face each other in a boxing match, eventually only one boxer wins. You can't have someone's going to get knocked out. Someone is going to win. So in a fight, when two armies fight together, someone is going to win. But when one person wins, it's going to affect the other one. When one boxer wins, the other one is going to lose, and the other one might go down. They're going to maybe have blood all over them. Maybe that's it. The confidence is going to be destroyed. Something is going to happen. Like there's going to be like a consequence of of whoever wins and whoever loses. Well, in this case, if the nafs wins, the fitra is going to get hurt because they just lost the battle. So the spiritual side, like how much the person remembers Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the desire for the Quran, for prayer, for salah, that is going to go down. So in other words, your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is affected by your desires. Like a person, and that's why we have to be very careful that we can just say, okay, fine, go and do your Quran, go and do your salah, go and we can say these things to a person, and we think, why doesn't this person, why is it finding it so difficult to pray like 5 times a day? Why is it finding it so difficult to read the Quran? Why are they finding it so difficult to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Well, the reason is because their desires, the nafs is winning. So we have to control the nafs, yeah? There's no point trying to keep focusing on and go and pray, go and keep telling the person to do this, to keep going, praying, etc., but we're not trying to focus on why they're not doing it, because it's their nafs. It's their nafs, which is the desires are getting the better of this person. So you have to focus on bringing the desires down, and then the ruh, then the ruh will start, remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we start winning. So it is, so we need to just bear this in mind, that if the ruh, loses, it feels bad. And this is called, and this feeling, and what we talked about, that this feeling is called guilt. So when we said that the nafs also has those two things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put inside the nafs. One is desires, one is feeling guilty. So if the desires are winning, the first thing that's going to happen in our heart, we're going to feel guilty. Yeah? Like we said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put an alarm system inside us. فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقَوَاهَا. So this alarm system that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put inside us is going to kick in. When the desires start to win, when the person starts to maybe follow their desires, or sin, or maybe they lie, or they do something bad, they're going to start feeling guilty. And this is a feeling inside us which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put inside this alarm system. So even non-Muslims feel this. Like even non-Muslims are going to feel guilty, like if they do bad things. It's something Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put inside us. So it is not necessarily a bad thing. It's being guilty is something that is good, because you can stop yourself. Oh, my desires are getting the better of me. I better stop what I'm doing. I need to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness. I need to stop this. I need to stop sinning. I need to remember Allah. So it is, it's a good thing that you're going to feel guilty. So that's what happens. So when your desires win, the first thing happens, okay, we feel guilty. Because like we said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put inside us, the nafs, which gives us our desires, and it makes us feel guilty. It gives us this feeling of guilt. So as long as, it is not completely, as long as our nafs still is in a good state, like we said, some people, they may not even experience guilt because their desires are so much. But if you feel guilty, that means it's a good thing. Okay. So what happens, like when you insult someone, like if you say bad, you swear at somebody, you say some bad words to somebody, Like you call somebody a bad thing, you call somebody a bad word, you hurt somebody, you say some bad words about somebody, you know, what happens when you do that? Like your anger. That means your anger wins, yeah? If you're insulting somebody, again, that's something that's happening in the nafs. So when you do that, the fitra like is hurt, like your own. When you say something bad to somebody, just think that it's something very important is like when you might be fighting maybe with your siblings or like you have these fights and sometimes you get very angry with people. Maybe you say things to people, but guess what? When you're angry with people and when you say something bad to the people, then nothing's happening to the other person. Only you are having something going on. Your own fitra, your own ruh, your own decency is being hurt. So it's a lesson here, like control your anger because the other person is not getting hurt. The one you're shouting at, the one you're like being angry with, you're fighting with, they're not getting hurt. You're getting hurt because your own fitra is getting harmed. Your own fitra is getting, because your nafs is getting the better of you. Like we said, your nafs is winning. Your ruh, your fitra starts to lose the battle. Your decency is hurt. So you become like, you have this bad feeling inside you. And this is like, with anything, like anything to do with the other person, like like we said, anything, any harming words or actions, or you're hitting your siblings or anything, you're being angry, it's only affecting you as your own fitra. So we have to stop, try and stop this, feeling of being excessive, being angry towards others, because it's only harming ourselves, it's only harming our ruh, our fitra. So this is called, like we said, nafsul lawama. Yeah, this is called the nafsul lawama. Like this is like the nafs, like we talked about, the level 2 nafs. Like what happens is, like if you make a mistake, like this person is you're insulting somebody, you're being bad to somebody, your desires are getting quite high, but then you're feeling guilty. So the main thing to understand is, initially, yeah, when you insult somebody, your fitra is getting hurt. And you know this, you're feeling guilty. So don't insult other people, don't be bad towards other people. And you're feeling guilty. So this is called the level 2 nafs. This is the nafs that recognizes, I'm doing some bad things. Oh no, like I make mistakes, but then they recognize, oh, I shouldn't have done that. It was a sin. Like I shouldn't have raised my voice. I shouldn't have like said these bad words. I shouldn't have done all these things to the other person. You automatically feel guilty. This is the nafsul lawama. This is the nafs of the believer, of the Muslim, that sometimes they do bad things, sometimes they feel guilty. So it's a case of, we need to recognize this alarm system. Like inshallah, we hope that all the alarm systems that we all have, they are working. So we can always recognize when we make a mistake. We can return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, repent. And it's important to realize that this nafs, so this nafs of the believer, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran, this is called the nafs al-lawama. It cannot rest in one state, because what happens with this nafs that we're talking about, it changes. So it changes, it does different things. So what we'll do. Yeah, so we'll just finish with this, inshallah, talking about this nafs that sometimes has desires and feels guilty. This nafs, it changes. It does different things. It remembers, it forgets. This is the second level nafs, where it does good things, but sometimes it does bad things. This person, it cannot rest in one state. It remembers Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sometimes this nafs, it forgets to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sometimes it submits to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sometimes it doesn't. Like it does good and bad things. Sometimes this nafs, it loves something. Sometimes it hates something. It's like always switching, like always going between one left and right. This nafs is always changing. Sometimes it gets really happy. Sometimes it becomes sad. It has different feelings. Sometimes it accepts things. Sometimes it rejects. So he's just trying to show you the state of the human being, basically, that we have these different feelings going on inside, but we feel guilty when we make mistakes. So this is the nafsul lawama, the one the nafs which recognizes and feels guilty. Sometimes it obeys Allah. Sometimes it doesn't obey Allah. So but it still feels guilty. And what it does, it blames itself for what it does as well. It blames itself. Like if it does a bad thing, this feeling of guilt comes inside this person. And this person, it understands, oh, I shouldn't have done this. I'm feeling guilty. So this is what from Ibn Qayyim, like a famous scholar, he described the nafs al-lawama. It's constantly changing nafs, feeling guilty, doing good things, doing bad things. You feel guilty, you turn back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sometimes you sin, sometimes you say sorry to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you become a better person. This is all happening in our heart. So yeah, this is just something, important to realize in this battlefield which is going on. So, inshallah, I think we'll leave it there and we'll carry on. We'll talk about this battlefield next week. But inshallah, what we talked about, just to summarize that, we've talked about this fight which is happening in our heart, nafs against the ruh. When the nafs is winning, the ruh gets hurt. Yeah, the ruh gets hurt. You feel guilty, which is the nafs al-lawama, which feels guilt. Sometimes it's you recognize the mistakes, then you say sorry to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you turn back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we talked about how, when we are angry as well, when we have these emotions towards others, we are only harming our own ruh. So we are harming ourselves, and we have to keep ourselves in check. If we think that our prayer is, maybe is finding it hard to pray 5 times, or we're hard to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or hard to read, recite, learn about the Quran. Maybe it's our desires are getting higher. Our desires to maybe waste time, our desires to maybe spend time on, like, I don't know, video games or television or other things, or too much of any other, distractions. Maybe they're quite high inside us. That's why we are struggling as well. And then this is affecting our ruh. So we need to keep these things in check. So inshallah, we have minutes, so we'll take questions. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to have a nafsul mutma'inna, recognize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and keep our desires in check. So are there any questions? So I didn't quite hear that question clearly. In the Day of Judgment, what was the question?
She's saying that I said that judgment. The bad people, would they get to see Allah?
No, they won't. It'll just be the good people. The bad people, that would be the thing that would be taken away from them. They'll be sad because they don't see Allah.